He's always put people in my kids' paths, that maybe I couldn't be there for him, whether geographically or emotionally, whatever. And he gave them someone I know my son, when he was in grad school, ended up on a trip to DC with his leadership master's program, and the president of the university was on the trip, and they this trip they normally stop by Arlington. Well, nobody knew that my son had a dad that was buried in Arlington, and he just sort of mentioned it in passing when they were pulling into Arlington, and the president of the university was like, "Did you just say that your father's buried here?" And he said, "Yeah, he is. He died when I was little." And so they went to the grave. He said, "Where's your dad buried?" And so the whole master's program, young adults, went to the grave, and my son got to share, his dad's story. And then he said, the president said, "Why don't you everybody else go on. We're gonna give my son's name Boston. We're gonna give him a little bit of time." And Boston said, the president just sat with him, at the grave, and just let him cry. And my oldest son, as I know you get your boys feel very like, we gotta be tough for mom. And so he's been the one that I think always has carried the most burden, being the oldest son. And so I think for him, there it was like, God was like, "This isn't your father. It isn't. He doesn't even know your story, but I've given this person, this man, compassion and discernment and a seeing of your soul when you needed it." And so I just think those things happen in our kids' lives, and we don't miss them. That just because you're the mom doesn't mean you're always the person that they need the most. Sometimes they need something totally different, and the Lord will provide.